Or are you saying it's logically necessary? Like from the laws of logic, it's deducible? What modal scope are you using for the term necessary?
I guess you could say logical because my argument is deductive, as in if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true, therefore it would be necessary.
Well, the premises would have to be true if and only if the laws of logic are true, right? If the laws of logic are true. That would be sufficient for those premises to be true if it's logically necessary. So what are the premises that are all logically necessary? What are the premises for that argument?
As to why, because we already went past the PSR, so you're asking me why it has to be God.
Well, sorry, what's the argument? Sorry, what's the logical argument for the PSR?
I thought you already granted it.
I granted that it's true, but not that it's necessary. So saying something's logically necessarily true is different than just saying it's true. So me existing, right? That's true, but it's not logically necessarily true. There's no contradiction with the laws of logic if I didn't exist. There's no contradiction with the laws of logic if the PSR is not true.
But when you say logically necessarily true, what do you mean by necessarily? As in it has to be true.
I mean, granting the axioms of logic, then you can deduce that this is true. Right? It's deducible from the laws of logic. That's what it means to be logically necessary. I've clarified this a couple of times. I'm not sure if you know.
Yeah, that's not what I meant by logically necessary either. So
that's what that means.
Sure it's just me, but when you say what modal scope, and then you said, oh, physically possible, which I understood as in whether it's in like your physical ability to do something, logically possible as in whether it's contradictory to like the laws of thought, etc., etc.
No. That's not what logic. Yeah. So we're talking about not logical possibility right now. We're trying to get what you mean by necessity, and you said logically necessary. What that would just mean is that it's deducible from the laws of logic.
Wait, I already defined what I meant by necessary. When I said necessary, I mean that it is not contingent on anything to exist apart from itself.
That doesn't give you the modal scope, right? You just used another modal term in the definition of necessary. Contingent, that's a modal term. Right, we just need the modal scope.
Contingent is solely a modal term?
Yep.
So you don't think that, okay, wait, so when we say contingent as in it can exist in it can exist in some but not all possible worlds, and I say contingent.
Yeah, possible. That makes
it depends on something.
Yep. Depends.
Yeah, I don't think
both of those would be modal.
Yeah, but if I opt for, like, for example, necessitarianism, then other possible worlds wouldn't exist. And what I mean by contingent is that in this world, it depends on something else to exist. That's what I'm arguing.
You're arguing in favor of it depending on something. That would still make it modal. Dependency is modal.
Okay. If that's the case, then what do you mean by modal scope when I'm talking about how it's, okay, modally necessary?
Modal scope is just, so modal logic, right, or modalities, right? We can talk about necessity and possibility, right? And then we can talk about what we mean by possibility and necessity. And these different meanings of the term necessity and possibility are what we're going to be talking about when we talk about modal scopes, right? So I could say something like, by necessary, I mean that it's physically necessary. And what physically necessary means, that modal scope means, is that it's deducible from the laws of physics. And what it's physically possible means is that it's not in contradiction with the laws of physics. Right? Logically would mean laws of logic, physically means laws of physics, metaphysically means laws of metaphysics, so on and so on. You can go with law, right? We can say something like, if I said something like, hold on, you can't do that, and what I mean is like it's illegal to do that, right? I would just be using the legal modality. Or if I said something like, hold on, you can't do that, what I mean it's morally wrong, I mean it's out of accord with the laws of morality.
Yeah, so I'm seeing what you're saying now. You brought up logically, physically, metaphysically. So then when I say ontologically, what's the issue of that being the modal scope?
Doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't sound like a modal scope. Right? What's that supposed to mean? What are the laws of ontology?
The laws of ontology?
Yeah, what is that? What is it deducible from?
Wait,
all I take necessity to mean is it's deducible from some set of laws. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Necessity, okay, wait, define necessity, go ahead.
Deducible from some set of laws. I just defined it like seconds ago.
I don't think, when I say necessary, I don't mean deducible from some set of laws. When I say necessary, I mean something that can exist independent of anything else. So I mean,
can't, right? This is another modal term, right? You just keep kicking the can down the road with words like possible and can't and contingent, right? You're not clarifying the modal scope. Like, I can't lift a car physically, but I can lift a car logically. There's no logical contradiction, right? So I'm just going to need you to clarify the modal scope. Okay. Otherwise, we're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, I'm struggling to clarify said modal scope. When I say that, what's it called? It can exist. I mean, I guess you could say logically.
Logically? Okay.
Logically, modally.
Sure.
I'm not sure, like
Log-
logically.
if we mean logically, right, we could. This is just obviously not true, right? Because obviously, there's no entity which is logically necessary because there's no contradiction entailed by saying nothing exists.
There's no contradiction entailed by saying nothing exists.
Yes. If I said nothing exists, what's the contradiction?
I think that's. I don't think. I think that's jargon. How can nothing exist?
Nothing exists. The set of all things that exist is empty.
Do you think? Wait, oh, Jesus. Okay, wait. Do you think that existence is a property?
No.
You don't think exists? Okay. Do you know what I mean by like? Okay, you know what I mean by like essential properties and accidental properties, right?
I know what the terms mean, but I'm not sure what you mean by them.
When I say essential properties, I mean something that you must have, and accidental properties is something that you happen to have.
Okay. If by must have you mean necessary to have, then it's another modal term, and we need clarity. We're not going to get anywhere without any kind of modal clarity. Like, here's a thing I've noticed with a lot of. I think I've noticed a lot of like protheism arguments is they hinge on these like just the ambiguity of terms like necessity and possibility, right? And we're never going to be able to fucking get anywhere unless you got like an entry level understanding of like modal talk, right? Otherwise, it's just you're not even clear on your own position. It's not going to be easy for me to get clear on it.
Yeah, so when I said existence is a property, as in existence or something that you must have, I mean something that you must have in order for you to like be you. For example, that sounds like an identity thing, but basically, like for example, the state of being a human, right? You need to have certain properties that you need to have in order, or like for you to be considered or to be a human. In the same way, would you consider existence a property that you would need to have?
Seems like this is going to run into some really weird shit with the existential fallacy. So no, I don't think that existence is a property. It doesn't make any sense for it to be a property. Like,
wait, okay,
like,
wait. What's your definition of property? Go ahead.
Yeah, so my definition of property is just going to be some kind of predicate.
And what's your definition of predicate?
Are you familiar with like predicate calculus?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what's your definition?
Yeah, predicate. By predicate, I just mean that there's like, so it's you can view them as like functions in math. So you have some kind of thing that the predicate acts on, right? Some kind of input for the predicate. You can either have like nullary, unary predicates, and so on. You can just have some inary predicate, right? Where you have some inputs, and then the predicate is just some like the output of some function on those inputs. So if you have something like being red, right? So I can say like the redness of X, right? And that's gonna be a property of X. So or predicate of X.
So the property of X is red. So would you could we replace the word predicate with characteristic then? Or attribute?
Sure.
Okay. So you don't and then so for red or for X to not have the property of red, that would mean that it is no longer red, correct?
For red to not have the property of red? No, that doesn't make any sense. I don't think that red can have the property of red.
I said for X to not have the property of red. Or if I didn't.
Well, it's all right. Yeah, if that's what you meant to say, then yeah, I would say that yes, it would mean that X is not red if X does not have the property of red.
So if we presuppose that existence is a property, then for X to not have
No, we wouldn't presuppose that. I don't think that existence is a property.
So you don't think that a characteristic of something is? You don't think existence is a characteristic or something? Like we can't point at something and say this thing exists.
That's why of course not. That's why in pred calc we can't use we don't use like just a predicate for saying something exists. We have like a special symbol for it, right? Because otherwise you run into like really weird issues with I'm sure you've like heard of most fallacies. Have you heard of the existential fallacy?
Existential?
Yeah, exactly.
You can define it.
So okay, if you haven't heard of it, I'll go ahead and explain it. So like if I say something like I'll come up with an example, right? Like if I say all horses are mammals, right? And I say that all VAMs are horses, would that mean that some VAMs are mammals?
All horses are mammals. Some VAMs are horses.
No. All horses are mammals. All VAMs are horses. Some VAMs are mammals.
Wait, so you said all horses are mammals?
Yep.
Some VAMs are horses?
Mm-hmm. No. Sorry, you skipped the middle one. All horses are mammals.
Uh-huh.
All VAMs are horses.
That would mean that all VAMs are mammals, no?
Now I'm asking you, does that mean that some VAMs are mammals?
I mean, sure, because it would also mean that all
no. See, that's the existential fallacy. It doesn't actually mean that. So if here's an example of the same format of argument, it'll be really clear why that's fallacious, right? So if I said all unicorns have one horn, right? And all things with one horn are rhinos, does that mean that all unicorns are rhinos?
When we say things, we mean things that. Or when we say thing, we
I
mean
didn't say
concept.
things. Right?
You said
I said all unicorns.
yeah.
Didn't
You
say
said all
things.
unicorns have one horn,
So
and
the
you said
issue is
all
that
things
no, the
that
issue is
exist.
that the set of all unicorns is empty, right? So saying all unicorns have horns. It's also true to say all unicorns don't have horns because there are no unicorns, right? So this
No,
is
but
why it's a fallacy.
the concept of a unicorn is something that has one horn, like a what's it called? A horse that has one horn.
Well, you can
So
look. You can say the concept is right, but I'm not talking about the concept. I'm talking about unicorns, right? So the set of all unicorns. If I say all horses are mammals, that doesn't entail that some horses are mammals because it doesn't entail that there are any horses. There could just be no horses, right? So
okay,
this is
wait.
why we
So,
can't view exist. This is why we can't view existence as just a predicate. Because if we do view existence as a predicate, then we could say something like, well, all b of x has the property of existence, right? Now, if we say that all b of x is the property of existence, now we can start bootstrapping other shit about b of x, right? And like, for example, it existing.
all right, wait. So hold on. I think I'm gonna like leave on from this point, low key. I'm gonna go back to what you said about
That's
the
fine. If you,
set of
I'm not gonna
this.
pin you on it. We can move on from
Yeah.
this.
So when you said the set of nothing exists, I want you to elaborate on what you mean by the set of nothing.
The set of nothing exists. No, I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
not saying the set of nothing exists. I'm saying the set of there is nothing which exists. Right. So that's a different claim.
Yeah, if nothing exists, but if okay,
By the way, just
nothing.
to get clear, you understand. I'm not saying this is true. Right. I'm just saying there's no logical contradiction until by this.
Yeah, I'm saying that they're opposing like states. How can nothing, which is like I don't know how to define nothing, bro. Apart from saying the lack or absence of properties.
Just the
But
set
let's
of
say
just like an empty set has zero elements. That's all I'm saying.
so. How can okay? And then what would you define existence as?
The set of all the existing things.
And would you agree that all existing things should possess a property?
No.
How can something exist and have no property?
I wouldn't say that something exists, right? You're doing the existential fallacy again. So just because
Oh,
all things, right? I could say all. Like, if I say that like for the set of all the things that exist, it's an empty set. That doesn't mean that some things exist. Right? The set's empty.
wait, wait. So do you wait? I don't want to like repeat something that you already answered. I'm just a little bit lost. So
Hmm.
do you think that if something exists, it would need to have a property?
If something exists, would it need to have a property?
Yes.
Well, I don't think so, but I don't think it helps your argument, so I'm fine with granting it.
Okay. So let's say this is true, as in something that exists must have a property. I don't see how nothing can exist because that would presuppose that the nothing itself has a property.
Yeah, what's the contradiction there?
I think if you have a property, then you exist.
You think if you have a property, then you exist?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
conditional.
this is saying the set. Yeah, this thing the set of all things with properties is empty. So there's no contradiction. That's all nothing as a property means.
Wait, the set of all things with properties is zero?
Is empty.
Yeah,
The size
definitely.
of the set is zero.
Wait, what I'm trying to say is that it's like by
Cardinality of
condition.
it zero.
As
Yeah.
in, you have or you possess a property if and only if you exist. So if the set of all things is zero, or the set of all things with properties is zero, then nothing would exist by like virtue of
Yep.
my by conditional statement.
Yep.
Yeah, therefore I don't see how nothing can exist.
Wait, what's the? You're not showing any contradiction, right? So just like find from nothing exists, right? From the I'll give you premise one. Nothing exists.
Okay,
Yeah.
go
Now
ahead.
from there, go ahead and tell P and not P.
Wait, you said okay, premise one, nothing exists, and go ahead.
Yeah. Premise one. That's all I'm giving you. Nothing exists. Now it's your turn. Show how P and not P is entailed.
I don't see how. You know, we can. I think I'm gonna keep on repeating myself. I keep continue on this point. That's fine. Wait. So what was the point of this nothing exists point?
I'm just telling you that from nothing exists, you can't conclude P and not P. So it's possible for nothing to exist. Logically
Right.
possible, at least, right? Now, if it's logically possible for nothing to exist, then there is no thing of which is logically necessary for it to exist.
So if nothing can exist, then there's no thing for it to be logically necessary for it to exist. Okay, hold on. Uh, uh, um, Now, that's a jolly good point that you've just brought up. For real, for real. Let's see. Um, all these niggas in chat are fake, by the way. I need a nigga to tag in. Hold on. So you said that basically you're attacking whether it's a logical necessity for God to exist because it's possible for nothing to exist logically.
Yeah, there's no logical necessity to any particular thing existing, including God.
Um, do you think that's modally possible?
Modally, it depends on what modal scope. Logical is a modal scope.
Yeah, that you're right with that. Let me think. Mm-mm-mm. Wait, so what if I prove that he's necessary to exist in this world? Or that
If it's
let me just
necessary, if you prove to me that it was necessary for God to exist in this world, that would be the same as proving to me that God exists in this world. Of which I would just be like, wow, you've done it. You've proven to me that God exists in
yeah,
this
so
world.
I'll just retract my necessary statement and I'll go on to explain why God needed to have existed, or God is the most satisfactory explanation as to why this world or this universe exists. Is that
Look, if
fine?
you just you don't want to go with the first one because that's a necessary claim again, right? But the second one, yeah, if you can do that, I'd be really impressed. I would
All
change
right,
my view.
cool. So, um, would you agree that like, okay, so if the universe itself has an explanation for existing, I just think that this explanation would need to be like a first cause, uncaused, etc., etc. Would you agree?
It would have to be a first cause. It's uncaused. No, no. If you said
Yeah.
that, you'd be violating the PSR. So that would be in contradiction with the PSR.
I don't think that's a contradiction to the PSR if it's uncaused.
Yeah, if you think there are effects that are uncaused, you don't agree with the PSR anymore.
No, it can be uncaused and still have an explanation for its existence.
What do you think the principle of sufficient reason is?
Everything that exists has a reasonable explanation for its existence, either in its contingency on another being, or its necessity, or not its necessity, or its necessity for existing. As in, like, it exists
Wait, then you're back
because.
to the necessity claim again.
Wait, hold on. I'll just send you it. Hold on, because I don't remember it off by heart. I don't know if it mentioned necessity. Hold on.
Because that's not the PSR I'm familiar with. But if that's what you mean by the PSR, you're roped into the same kind of issue as earlier. But I don't know. Maybe the to get the conversation going further, right? What is it about a being with agency that allows it to have that allows it to like kind of get around the issues you have towards the universe being an uncaused cause?
As in, are you asking why can't the universe be an uncaused cause?
Like, why can't it be caused by a non-agental thing? Like, for example, why
Oh,
can't it be caused by like some kind of like non-causal necessary mini worlds or something?
wait, non. You said what?
Non-causal necessary mini worlds, right? Like, say there are just like an infinite number of worlds, all of which are physically possible, and each physically possible world exists, right? What would be the reason why that thing would have to have agency? Like, why doesn't that work as an explanation?
Hold on. Let me just confirm that I have your argument. You said, why can't it be like a set of uncaused, causal, or non-causal mini worlds?
Things which can cause but are not caused, right? But they
How
don't have any agency. Right? What's the argument for why the thing that caused the universe to exist has to have agency?
has to have agency?
Yeah, or just why do you think it has agency? What's the evidence for that?
Because I don't think that causality can occur with like what's it called, with something that is completely inanimate. Like, I think it's inconceivable. Like, for example,
Huh?
I don't want to use like, okay, so
Certainly
if we're
conceivable. Look, I'll conceive of it right now. Look, I'm conceiving of a rock rolling down a hill, right? And I'm conceiving of it it hits a little domino, and other dominoes fall. Right? I'm conceiving of causality. There's no agency involved.
yeah, but the
Right?
thing
It's totally
is
conceivable.
with that example within the universe, at least, right? For that rock to begin to fall, there needs to be a force that acts upon the rock, which is why I'm
Yeah,
saying
well, I don't
naturally.
understand whether force has to have agency.
Why that force has to have agency? It doesn't
Yeah.
have to have agency. I'm saying that force has to be caused by something else.
Yeah, why do any of these causes ever have to have agency?
But okay, if the force, okay, you'd agree that as it gets caused by other things, as these things are continuing other things. Let's say the rock example, the rock has to be moved by a force, the force has to be caused by it's like a continuous addition of contingent things that cause.
Wait, hold on. I don't understand why a necessary thing being non-agental is going to be a contradiction.
Because I don't see how it would be able to cause.
Yeah, but that's not going to give you the argument. You not being able to see how something's the case doesn't mean that it couldn't possibly be the case, right? There are plenty of things that I couldn't see how it could be the case that are still possibly the
Possible
case.
in what modal scope?
Logically?
So because there's no logical contradiction.
Yep.
So wait, so are you arguing for like a naturalistic explanation of the universe then?
Depends on what your definition of naturalistic is, but probably.
Composed of matter?
No.
Okay, so naturalistic
I'm not a physicalist.
Okay, so naturalistic as in inanimate?
I'm not sure what you mean by inanimate. Just without agency? Yeah, I think that the thing that created the universe does not have agency. I see no good reason to believe it does. And I see good evidence against it.
Such as?
Yeah, here's one good piece of evidence. Every single time that you argue with somebody who says the universe began with agency, they can't give you a reason why. Right? Usually when people can't give you a reason in favor of something, it's because there is a lack of evidence in favor of it. Now, the evidence against it, and stronger evidence against it, is just that if you look around, most things that are caused aren't caused with agency, right? Aren't caused with known agency, we should say, because I don't want to beg the question against your view. So, aren't caused with any known agency. So, we should assume that any random cause, or priors on it being caused by agency, should be pretty low. So, it's just a basic inductive case, which is normal Bayesianism.
So, inductively, wait, what cases or evidence are you using to make this inductive claim?
We can look at the natural world and see that we don't know an agental cause of most things. So for any particular thing, we should expect it to not have an agental cause.
Okay. Sorry, someone said sign in chat. Yeah, so I disagree with your inductive case. I think with a lot of things we can see like an agental cause for it.
Well, that doesn't matter if we can see it with a lot of things. We'd have to see it with most things.
Yeah, so what things are you talking about where we don't see an agental cause?
If you take a telescope and you look through the sky, you'll see that most of that shit is not being caused by agents, or at least not a known agent.
Or like interactions of stars and stuff?
Yep, most of the shit in the universe. We don't know any agent that causes it.
You don't think those are caused by like forces and stuff?
That's not an agent.
Wait, no, but it would be caused by one. Like, for example, you'd agree that the universe is like constantly expanding.
Now you're begging the question for your view. Right, you're just begging the question in favor of your view again.
I'm explaining why. So, you'd agree that the universe is constantly expanding as a result of the Big Bang, right?
Yep.
Okay, so...
Well, no. Sorry, not as a result of the Big Bang, but it is constantly expanding, yeah.
Okay, sure. So, you'd agree that this expansion is what causes the following reactions within, like, space with, like, I don't know, asteroids colliding.
It causes some interactions.
So, what interactions are you talking about that are non-agental?
Those wouldn't be agental either. Wait, what? The ones you listed wouldn't be agental either. Anything regarding the universe expanding, right? You do not know it's agental unless you presuppose that God exists, right? That's the only way you're going to be able to make that argument. That's just going to beg the question in favor of your view. It's going to be a circular argument, and I'm just going to throw it out, right?
I'm saying that within our universe, our conscious experience is consistent that there is no cause that we've seen or no inanimate object that can move independent of any like agental prior cause or like agental.
What's the argument for that?
Like, what's the argument for? Like, it's consistent with our conscious experience.
No, it isn't. I look around and I see plenty of shit that's being moved without any agent, right? I don't see any agent around to move it. I see like when I see a supernova collapse in by gravity, it collapses and their stars form. I don't think, I saw the agent that did that. I see no such agent, right? I don't have an example of that. The only example you'll be able to give me is just presupposing that God exists, which is just a circular argument, so I'm just going to throw it out.
Yeah, so when you say you look at like a supernova collapse and you don't see an agent, that doesn't mean that there wasn't so
that's true. It doesn't mean there's necessarily not an agent there. What I'm telling you is you have no reason to believe there's an agent there, right? You can't just presuppose all of this shit happening is caused by agents and just say, look, it's caused by agents. Premise one, it's caused by agents. Conclusion is caused by agents. Yeah, I would agree that argument's going to be valid, but it's also going to be circular, right? So I'm just going to throw it out.
I'm not saying that because what's it called? Because if we look at something, it has to be caused by an agent. I'm saying that the prime cause should be an agent because for every like, I don't know, state of affair that we see, everything that happens, right? It always leads back to some form of agent.
No, that's not true. Most of the shit we see is in the natural world, and you don't know what it leads back to.
Such as,
Such as gravity. You don't know what it leads back to.
you'd agree that gravity has to be caused, right?
No.
Gravity exists within the universe, so
Yep.
how would gravity be uncaused?
What would be the contradiction there?
The PSR?
How is it? You saying you think that the PSR doesn't have a contradiction there? Like, one is the PSR under your definition of the PSR wouldn't have a contradiction, and two, that's not the contradiction I'm looking for. I'm not looking for like, is it in contradiction with any other facts? Right? I'm looking for, is there a contradiction entailed by purely the statement alone? So is it logically impossible?
It being logically impossible. Okay, I don't really understand the question, because if you take the PSR to be true as a fact, then I don't see how something can exist without a cause, or unless you want to say that.
Because even though I take PSR even though I'm, for the sake of the argument, I'm taking PSR as a fact, right? That doesn't mean that I think the PSR must be a fact, right? That doesn't mean I think it's impossible for me to be wrong on that.
Yeah, what'd you say?
I'm saying, even though for the sake of the argument, I'm taking the PSR as a fact, right? Just for the sake of the argument to see if there's any kind of entailment here, I'm telling you that doesn't mean that it's impossible for me to be wrong. Right? There are plenty of facts that I take to be facts that I could be wrong about, right? I could be like, I take for a fact that I exist, right? Could be the case I'm wrong about that. I take for a fact that I went to Burger King earlier today and had an Impossible Whopper. I could be wrong about that, right? Plenty of things that I take to be facts I could be wrong about. I could name like a plethora of examples. I could name examples for hours of things that I take for fact that I could be wrong about.
Oh yeah. Do you want to conclude for the recording?
Do you want to? If you want to conclude here, we can. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to conclude first?
No, you can if you want. You open first, right?
Yeah, I'd like you to conclude first. I'm not gonna
lie. You open first. Go ahead.
All right. So my conclusion. All right. Look. All right. So we deliberated over whether the modal scope of the PSR would be like true, and then I think, like, I honestly just think he didn't really respond to my point or my argument at all. So you could go ahead.
Yeah. Normally in debates, if somebody's like, you didn't give a response to my argument at all, I would just like name all the responses I gave. But in this case, like, come on now. We all remember the responses. Every single fucking one. You know what? Fuck it. Celestia defined God as an immaterial being with agency, which is physically necessary. Celestia got fucking walked back on that one. The agency point was insane. There's no good reason to believe that there's agency there. The evidence that we have against it is that most of the things that we see doing stuff, we know of no such agent which caused them, which gives us inductive reason to support that there was not an agent that caused them. Right. For most of the things that we don't know of the cause of, right, it's the case that an agent being that cause is usually not the first order cause. So if we go backwards, we just have an inductive case that like going backwards for causes and causes and causes, we'll find that there is no cause which has agency, because most of the causes that we see around us are not agental causes. Something that exists must have a property was an argument he made. Nothing has a property. All that property talk we all remember. I don't know. We all remember all the fucking arguments back and forth. But I'll give one last argument, right? Just to nail the coffin and just for fun, right? Let's take for example, C equals C implies that God does not exist, right? That's what we're defining C as. C implies that God does not exist. C is true only under the condition that God does not exist. Obviously, if God did exist, then C would be false. And so, only under the conditions that God does not exist can C be true, which means that C, which equals that C implies that God does not exist, would have to be true, right? It has to be true. Because of that, we can know that since C is true and C implies that God does not exist, God does not exist. I don't know. That's just one funny argument there. That's it. That's the conclusion for the recording. Did we cut the recording?
I, in fact, deleted the recording. That shit is not going on any social. You know what? G's, bro. I don't think I've ever been slapped around that badly in any sort of theology context, bro. It's wild.
All right, you're a king for taking that shit like a champ. I
Yeah.
enjoyed the combo.
Let me just ask you though. So, say you were in my position and someone asked you those questions. Do you think there's responses to either like modal scope shit, or do you think that's like like an innate issue, or with like the contingency argument in general?
I think it's. I mean, I don't think like unclarified modal scopes are an innate issue. I think you can give some modal scopes, but I think they just end up being like kind of silly. And then there are like hilarious